Yes! Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic 90s nerds to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, like today, in which case we are talking about a flippin' awesome book, a horror book to be precise. Today we'll be talking about, with spoilers, Night Shoot by David Sodergren. And I am very excited to talk about this book. This was one of my book club picks. This is a book club meeting for my book club, the Midnight Book Society. Of course, that name is an ode to Are You for the Dark? Thanks to all of you guys who might be watching right now who read this along with me for the club. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to hear about what you guys thought of the book. Please drop your thoughts below in the comments, and I would like to welcome people who are joining live and people who are watching on demand too. Welcome no matter when you're tuning in. I appreciate you guys no matter what. So we've got Cool Gamer who's watching right now. Hey! We've got Becky England. Hi, Becky. How you doing? We've got Justin. Hi, Justin. How are you? All right, guys. While we wait for some more people to file in and make sure that we're not going to miss anybody, let's just talk about some casual stuff. What have you guys been reading and watching lately? Obviously, we have read Night Shoot. That's why we're here to discuss it. But before we dive in, let's just talk about other things we're reading or watching. So in case you guys are wondering what I'm reading and watching, I have been having a great time. So June was slashers, and thanks to everyone who participated in my readathon and watchathon, because I had a whole slasher themed readathon and watchathon, and Night Shoot was one of the books that was slasher themed that I read for my readathon. And I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the entire event. The event, in case you guys aren't familiar, it was called Slime and Slashers. Well, actually, Slime Summer Slashers was the official name of the event, and I think it was so much fun. I read so many slasher books that I had not gotten to before, but I actually didn't even finish my whole TBR. So maybe next summer, when I do this again, I can, fit some more in and check more off my list. But July now is kind of like a mini coming of age theme for me. So I am reading currently Boy's Life by Robert McCammon, and oh my god, I'm loving it so much. I am 194 pages in. It is so good. Like, not a ton of action is happening, but we are following this main character, Corey, and his life in Zephyr, Alabama. It's like this small town. And just a lot of daily activities that we're following of his life. Recently in the book, like, it just turned summer for him and his friends, and so they celebrated like the first day of summer. Like, it felt like they were, I can't even describe it. It was like they were imagining that they could fly, and the way they were describing it was as if they were flying, like, and their wings busted out from their backs and they were able to fly free after school was over. Anyway, it was very nostalgic in that, it brought back the memories of what it felt like to be out of school that very first day when summer started and school was over. So yeah, lots of feels here. And even though this takes place back like in the 60s, it's still relevant, it's still relatable. And so I'm really loving it. There's a hint of magic, not too much horror, but like, oh my god, the character development and like the town building, the world building, let's say, even though it's a real life place, it's not like a fictional sci-fi world, but the building in the story is really well done. I'm really loving it. So that's what I'm currently reading right now. Before I read that, I just finished Bonesaw, which, if you guys are a part of the club, this is our other book club pick. I will have a live show about Bonesaw. It'll just take place sometime in mid-July. I will announce the date on my community tab and on my Discord. If you're not belong to the Discord, the link to join is in the description of this video right now. Melissa is here. Hi, Melissa. So happy you're here. Becky just finished the last 2 episodes of season 4 of Stranger Things. I did too. I watched that yesterday. Oh my god. Oh, so good. So good. No spoilers. So good. That's all I'm going to say. I really like season 4. I actually liked it better than season 3 personally. Season 1 is still my favorite, but yeah, season 4 is pretty darn good. And I also just watched today, I watched a few episodes of this show called Snowfall, which is a really well-acted show. Like, it's such a good show. Lots of drama, lots of action. It's kind of like about the rock and cocaine, like, boom in the 80s and how all that happened and everything. and it's really interesting. It's really tense. It's a great show, and I hear nobody talking about it. It's on FX, I believe. Anyway, so I watched some of that today. I'm not finished. We've got a couple of episodes left to finish this most recent season. Also, I've been watching Star Trek: The Next Generation. I watched some slashers recently, but not too many. I'm actually having to. This is kind of cheating. My summer slashers event was supposed to be in June, but I didn't finish all my summer slasher movies that were on my list, so I have to drag it on. So yeah, I'm still going to be watching slashers in July, which I think is okay because it's still summer. So summer slashers, that whole vibe still applies, in my opinion. Just I'm not going to be reading many slashers in July. All right, so Justin is reading Black Tide by Kelsi Jones, and it's flippin' fantastic so far. Literally set on a beach, so it's a great summer beach read. The pages just fly by, kind of like Cujo, but with vicious aliens. That sounds like a lot of fun, Justin. I like the sound of that quite a bit, and I love that it's like on a beach. So it's, as you said, perfect summer read. I like books that are summery. Are you guys seasonal readers? I definitely am, in a way, because, I like but funnily enough, to break away from that, a little sidebar, I read Night Shoot, which isn't really a summary type of read. I read this on the beach. Like, when was that? Was that a week ago or 2 weeks ago? I think that was 2 weekends ago. I literally read this in like a sitting and a half. Like, I read 20 pages the first night. I didn't get far, but then like the day of the beach, I read the rest. It was so easy to read. But yes, I wouldn't necessarily say this felt like a summer read, but it didn't matter because it was, slashery, and I was going for slashers, so it fit in that way. So at least that worked out. Justin said, I've wanted to read Bonesaw, like, oh, so you like fiction about horror movies and theaters. Yeah, I love books about movies or books about theaters as well. I think that's really cool. Bonesaw is on Justin's list to read. I do recommend it. I really enjoyed Bonesaw. So I enjoyed both the book club reads this month for our club, the Midnight Book Society. I am so glad these won. Very good reads. Very similar in a way that they could both be made into a movie, and they both feel like a movie in a way, but in book form. So yeah, these are the two book club reads, and I was not disappointed with both, I will say. This was the first book I've read by Patrick Lacey. Of course, we're talking about Bonesaw, but this is the second book I've read by David Sodergren. All right, guys, that's enough chit chat. You could feel free to still leave what you're watching or reading below. I will get to it. But let's dive in a little bit into the book. All right, I'm excited to talk about this. So the first book I read by David Sodergren was The Forgotten Island, and I read that last September, I believe. August, September of last year, and I loved it. And the funny thing is, so I think the book club was the Horror in 24 book club. It was one of their book club picks. Or was it Stacks of Strange? I forget. I'm going to have to find it. But it was for their book club, so I read it to try to make it for their book club chat. And a lot of them DNF'd it. They didn't like the characters. Now, Marcy from Marcy Reed, she did not DNF. She finished it. She was one of the only people in the book club meeting that finished The Forgotten Island. And then I messaged Cameron and I was like, they all DNF'd it. How could this be? Like, it was so good. Because Cameron from Library Macabre, if you guys don't know, check out his channel. He also read Forgotten Island and he liked it. And so I knew that and I was like, why'd they all DNF it? No. And I couldn't watch the whole book chat. So I didn't get the full scope of why they DNF'd it. But I don't know. I can't see. I think because they thought that the writing was a little like crass and a little like there was like stuff about boobs stuff, but to me it felt like a slasher horror movie in book form. So to me that's what David Sodergren is going for, like these 80s movies but in book form. So to me he makes these hateable characters and he puts them in his stories, and I feel like you want them to get killed, but then you still have a character or two that you're rooting for. So I found that in The Forgotten Island, and I liked it. I didn't mind it. And The Forgotten Island had some great horror elements. So it had some good gore, graphic scenes. I really personally loved it. And then Night Shoot, I found the same thing. You have the unlikable characters, but your main character, Elsbeth, hopefully I'm saying it right, Elsbeth was so likable in my opinion. And I like how she was like not a perfect character and that she was tortured over some things and she was tortured over her actions. Like she was about to like freaking strip down in a movie, even though it was against all that she believed in, but she was getting pressure to try to do that anyway. But I like how finally she snapped out of it and she was like, no, this isn't happening. So yes, I loved Elsbeth, and of course, I loved the romance at the core of the story that really comes into play at the end. To me, like the book was entertaining. I wouldn't have said it was a 5 star. In fact, I was like, okay, this is a 3.5, 4 star read. I liked it. It was gory. It was quick read, so easy to read. But at the end for me, I don't know how you guys feel, but the end of Night Shoot elevated it. And here we are talking spoilers. So let me put this up if you're just joining. So we will be talking spoilers. And so I'm going to get into this right now. I loved the ending. It was so sad, but also romantic, had like a gothic vibe. I don't know. And I love how it wasn't like a slasher book purely. Night Shoot was also kind of like a haunted house story as well, and also a creature feature. So it had all of these elements, definitely like a horror movie of different genres coming together and like mashed up. So I like that quite a bit. Oh, we've got Amber's here. Amber, hey! Secondhand Reader, check out her YouTube channel. She is fantastic. I should have asked you to co-host with me. I'm so unexperienced when it comes to asking people to co-host. I'm like, will they feel pressure? Do they want to? I should have asked you. I never know what to do. And I never know, like, is it good to have co-hosts? I think it is. So maybe next time, Amber, you can co-host one if you want to. No pressure, though. In the future, if you'd ever want to, just let me know. She says, I thought the same thing about Night Shoot. It feels like a horror movie, but in book form. That's a big pro to the book, in my opinion. And I feel like Sodergren is great at writing that way. After having read The Forgotten Island, Night Shoot is no different. It's exactly the same in terms of style. And so, yeah, if people are looking for like deep characterization, like let's just say, okay, these two books, Boy's Life and Night Shoot, are completely different. This is more campy. This is more, a mindless good time, but it still had heart at the center. It still had a character you could connect with. So it wasn't completely just on the surface and nothing you could relate to. However, this is a lot more like literary. This is a lot more about character. So yeah, they're two different types of books. So if I can understand if someone goes into a David Sodergren book and they're thinking it's going to be like a Boy's Life type of situation, it's not the same thing. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have any depth there or doesn't have anything deep there. It does. It definitely does, in my opinion. So it is all about your tastes, very much so. And so I can see in a way why the girls from the book club, again, I don't want to say the wrong book club name. I'm almost positive it was Horror in 24. Let me see. Just quickly looking it up. I really appreciate you guys being here as I'm looking this up. Yes, it was. It was the Horror in 24 book club. Yeah, that was 9 months ago. And I remember tuning in and they were like, we all DNF'd it except Marcy. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. Just because if they're going in thinking one thing, that it's not going to be trashy, this is very much, I also think another good comparison, besides comparing this to a movie, I do think you can compare this to like 80s horror books, so 80s horror fiction or old school horror fiction. It has that old school vibe to where not everything is straight up clean cut, and you know what I mean? It's got some grit to it, I think. And again, just not to use the word again, but some trashiness to it. There's like some trashy characters, some trashy dialogue. But again, we are not supposed to like every single person in the book. I think that makes the deaths a little bit sweeter. Like when the director Robert, again, this is a spoiler, in Night Shoot, the director Robert, such a freaking sexist pig. I can't even say the word pig. I'm so impassioned about this. He was such a terrible guy. I was like, yes, when he got it, I was like, yeah, bitch, get it. By his own family, he was kind of killed, which I think he deserved it. He was a terrible guy. Melissa says, I love the ending too, sad but so good. The ending to me elevated the entire story. Like it elevated it to a definite 4-star read for me, if not a 4.5-star read, because it was so heartfelt. Like I was kind of taken aback that it ended that way, but in a way, like, there was some romance and hope there. I like how he didn't specifically say what happened, like they fell or jumped to their deaths. He didn't explicitly say that, he just heavily implied that. Very cool. Loved that ending. I actually like the ending of this better than the ending of The Forgotten Island. Although I did like that ending too. Both feel kind of like a little heavy, but that's not spoiling anything. I think he probably has heavy endings in a lot of his books. But have you guys read any other David Sodergren books? If so, which ones? I've heard great things about, I believe it's called Maggie's Grave. I know my friend Katrina, she just was talking about Satan's Burnouts Must Die, and she was touting that one as a really fun read. So I bought it, and that's why I'm looking over there because it's on my stack of books over here. So Satan's Burnouts Must Die sounds very campy, very trashy, but also she said it was bonkers. So I'm up for a bonkers good time. So anything like that is up my alley. Melissa can't believe they all DNF'd The Forgotten Island from the Horror in 24 book club. I know, like, only Marcy didn't DNF. And that's because she's used to, like, old school horror. I think the rest of them don't read, like, kind of trashy horror that much. Justin said, Forgotten Island rocked my world. The description of the really big creature had me screaming out loud. I know. Oh my God. That part was crazy. Amber says, I agree. It was on the campy, trashy side. From what I read in the afterword, that is what he was going for. Exactly. I do think he was going for this on purpose. It was an ode to old school horror movies. And when you think of old school 80s slasher movies, what do you think of? Campy, trashy. Like, they're not Oscar worthy movies. This is not meant to be an award winning book in terms of, yeah, this is going to read the Goodreads Horror Fiction Award. Even though, I mean, to me, it's a great book. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's basically about expectations, I think. And I've had this discussion with my good friend Kat. By the way, check out my friend Kat. She's got a wonderful blog, and I have linked it in previous videos. I don't know if I have it linked right now, but her blog is really awesome. But we've talked about together in videos in the past about expectations and how expectations going into anything, whether that be a book, a movie, a show, if you've got high expectations, that can really kind of taint your experience and almost color your experience a certain way. And sometimes that could be in a good way, and sometimes that can be in a bad way. Like if your expectations are way too high, then you go into a book and you're disappointed. However, if you go in with medium to low expectations, you could be surprised. If you have no expectations, then it really doesn't matter. But to me, I feel like if somebody was going into The Forgotten Island or Night Shoot and they had very high expectations about the kind of writing, like as in this is going to be a very literary story. I know the Horror in 24 book club, before they read The Forgotten Island, they had read like The Elementals, and these are two different types of books for sure. The Elementals versus Night Shoot. Like Michael McDowell has a very not saying that he doesn't do gore, but it's more of a literary style. He's not trying to emulate a movie, whereas David Sodergren is trying to emulate a movie. And so does David Sodergren accomplish his goal? Yes, 100% yes. And for people who know what his work is like, I think it's a pleasure, and I think it meets our expectations and it exceeds our expectations because we're not taken aback by the style of the book, that type of thing. Amber said, this was my first Sodergren book. I went and bought The Forgotten Island the other day. Yes, so glad you bought it. I enjoyed it, and it's a great summer read. It's definitely, I would think it's even more of a summer read than Night Shoot, because Night Shoot, it felt like there was like a breeze. It was kind of like a cool, like dark, stormy night that they were shooting. Obviously, it's a night shoot, so it was overnight, part of it. But it just felt like kind of like autumn time to me. I can't remember if they said the season or not, but it felt kind of cold to me, especially when they were talking about searching the forest. Definitely The Forgotten Island. It's like summer, it's hot. They're on an island, people are sweaty, and yeah. So it would fit in perfect for summertime or whenever you wanted to read it. So Melissa says, I was cheering when, I'm guessing she means Robert, the director in Night Shoot. She was cheering when he died too. I think a good slasher needs characters you hate so you can cheer when they get killed. Yes, because you don't want to spend the whole movie being sad that everyone's getting killed. There are slashers like that that work. Like I was just talking about, I just filmed this video. I've just got to edit and release it probably this week. I filmed my top 10 reads of the year so far. And one of the books I talked about is a slasher book, and it's a slasher book with characters you actually like, not like none of the characters you hate. And so the whole time, but there's humor in the book too. That's what saves it from being sad the whole time. So yes, you get these impactful deaths and you're connected to the characters, but you do have humor that is kind of lifting the mood a little bit. Night Shoot, it's like the reverse. It's like characters you hate, like a few very small amount of characters you don't hate, but the characters you hate is what kind of makes it lighter, if that makes sense. So there's something in the book to make it a little less tense, heavy, but there's still a lot of tension too in the book. So it's not just light or it's not just heavy. It's like a nice mixture. I like that quite a bit. I think he did a great job of balancing everything. Justin agrees with me about the ending of Night Shoot. It raised it, like what I said, to an epic gothic level. Like, yeah, and the way they described, like, the sun. Oh my God, it was actually kind of beautiful, honestly, but heart-wrenching. Like, I was thinking specifically about the ending so long after I finished the book. I was thinking about that the whole day. I was like, oh my God, like the end. It kind of got me a little bit. It almost made me tear up because I was like, oh, they really love each other and their relationship felt so pure. And another thing that made the ending so impactful was the whole fact that Elspeth could have left. Then she realized, oh shit, Sandy's there. Like she went back to save me. I have to go back and get her. So it was just like epic. It was just very like emotional. She had a chance to get away, but it was definitely a love story at its core, I think, at least in my opinion. Jonathan is here. How you doing, Jonathan? When am I going to write a slasher book that involves slime? There are a few horror books that involve slime, and it would be appropriate for my channel to talk about that because slime and slashers, we've already talked about pure slashers. We need to talk about some more slime. But I have talked about Nickelodeon slime, so in that way, it kind of counts. Oh, yes, Justin brings up a good point. We cannot forget this. This is very important, guys. Justin says the other reason y'all should follow Sodergren on his social media is the mascot of his imprint, Paperbacks and Pugs, is his pet pug, which he posts tons of pics of. Yes, he is so cute. Where is he? This is like, I know you guys can't see so good, but there's the logo. That's his pug. I mean, obviously, it's an illustration, but it's an illustration of his pug. And yes, he is super cute. Isn't his name Boris? Yes. And this book is dedicated to him, to Boris, for sitting still long enough to let me write. I'm pretty sure that's the name of his pug. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, I have seen pictures of his pug. Super cute. I want a pug. Just so you guys know, this is like a fun fact about me. I have a wonderful dog named Jackson. Me and Paul have talked about getting a second dog, and I'm always like, I want a pug. But they snore and stuff, and they smell really bad, apparently. But I mean, I really want one. If I like could just have a choice of a breed of dog, I really kind of want a pug. Justin says it's one of those pugs whose tongue is always lolling out of his mouth. I frequently squee from the cuteness. Squee! Yes, how could you not squee at him? He's so cute. Becky says, I really enjoyed Night Shoot. You are right. It felt like an 80s horror movie, and I loved that. Very few books capture the feel of a movie, so I give props to David Sodergren because it's not an easy thing to capture. Because some books, spend a lot of time developing things. This book developed, I mean, we don't go straight into the action, but like he just had a very a very good way of imprinting like that cinematic feel on the page. I don't know how he did it, but it's almost like I could see it. His descriptions were so perfect. It's like you could see it as if it was a film. Melissa says, I just read Dead Girl Blues by David Sodergren, and I loved it. I liked it even more than Night Shoot. It's his takes on, I always say this wrong, giallo movies, and I loved it. Of course, those are Italian, awesome, like mystery slasher type of movies. I love those types of movies. I just watched Deep Red last year. So good, so good. Of course, I'm a big fan of Dario Argento, so anything he does is incredible and fantastic. But yeah, I'm going to have to not watch. I'm going to have to, since I was just talking about films, now I'm like in the film mindset. I'm going to have to read Dead Girl Blues. Thank you, Melissa, for recommending that. Kimmy is here. How you doing, Kimmy? Oh, welcome. So glad you're here. Appreciate you. We're just in the middle of talking about Night Shoot. We do have some spoilers going on here. I know you read it. I'm pretty sure I saw that you read it on the Discord. Didn't you not like it? I know we had someone in our Discord. If I'm wrong, Kimmy, please correct me. I know someone didn't like it. My friend Daisy, she's on Instagram. She wrote a review on Goodreads, and she rated it 5 stars. Also, Amber, who's with us in the chat right now over at Secondhand Reader, she rated it on Goodreads 4 stars. And Katie, my good friend Katie, you could find her at Death by Paperbacks on Instagram. She also has a blog by the same name, and she rated it 5 stars. So lots of high ratings here, at least from people I know on Goodreads. Kimmy really didn't like it. She says, tell us a little bit why you didn't like it, Kimmy. If it's okay, if you don't mind. You don't have to if you don't want to. But we're all into sharing opinions here. So everyone shout out what you loved about it, what you disliked about it, etc., etc. Your favorite part, your favorite character. Obviously, my 2 favorite characters, the couple at the center, Elsbeth and her girlfriend. Mary is here. Hi. Love Sodergren's books. Maggie's Grave was one of my favorite books of 2021. Love Night Shoot too. Maggie's Grave is one that's high up on my list. I've heard great things about it, so I cannot wait to get to it. I don't own that one, but I owned Night Shoot for like a year before I got to it. So I've had this on my cart. So happy to finally have read it. Again, I also liked Forgotten Island quite a bit. I gotta buy more now. I do have, as I said a few minutes ago, Satan's Burnouts Must Die, which I just heard about from my friend Katrina, and I can't wait to read that one. But yeah, I'm gonna have to buy Maggie's Grave. I've heard amazing things about it. Again, also Melissa just shouted out Dead Girl Blues, which I'll have to read too. Sodergren, I found I really like him. I really like his style, so this will not be my last Sodergren read at all. All right, if you guys don't mind, shout out what you guys thought, your favorite parts. I'm going to read some reviews, and then I will catch up with the comments after I read some of these reviews to you guys. So as I said, my friend Daisy, who's in my club Discord, she rated it 5 stars. I read this book for the Midnight Book Society. That's my club. She said, this was also my final slasher book I read for Slime and Slashers, the Slasher Readathon, which was my readathon. She said it was her first Sodergren book, and it surely will not be her last. A film crew is filming a slasher movie inside a creepy old mansion that sits on a rocky cliff overlooking the ocean. Unbeknownst to the crew, the house has some dreadful inhabitants. Yes! Reader beware, you're in for a gory ride. I love the creature feature element. Sodergren delivers a haunted, creepy, and terrifying environment inside the manor. The kills were messy and gross, which is needed in a great slasher book. I would consider this both a creature feature and a slasher read as well. The story read very cinematic to me, which was a major plus. The ending was chef's kiss. Yes, I love the end. She says, I ended the book gasping with an eerie smile to my face. What a fun ride this book was. I am so glad this was a Midnight Book Society book club pick. Me too. And yes, the ending I really enjoyed. It was sad, it was emotional, it was impactful. And it wasn't a happy ending, which wouldn't have really completely made sense for them to go all through, that ordeal and to have a completely happy ending. Here's a good question to ask you guys' opinion on. Do you guys think that this is a pure slasher book? To me, it felt just more of like an ode to 80s horror movies in general. I felt like it was more of a haunted house type of book than a pure slasher. Because I feel like the kills were more about creatures than they were about stabbings and all of that. And there was a group of creatures. It wasn't one creature like knocking off everybody. But there was some human violence too and some knife action. So, I don't know. I guess you could say it had slasher elements to it. Here we're kind of nitpicking what a slasher is and what a slasher isn't, but I still like to hear people's opinions and just what they think. If it felt completely slasher-ish to them, or half and half, or no, you thought it was a haunted house or something other than a slasher completely. Becky just ordered The Forgotten Island. Yay, I hope you enjoy it if you check it out. Again, you've got unlikable characters, but a lot of action, and you do have a likable character to root for overall, at least one. The reason Kimmy didn't like Night Shoot, I felt like it went from dragging to full speed back and forth. I also felt like there was a lot of useless scenes that really weren't needed. Enjoyed the idea behind the story though. I understand that. Like to me, it didn't drag at all. It felt, even though we do have a lot of build in the beginning, we're getting to know the crew, we're getting to know Elsbeth, and there is a lot of friction there, and they're talking about the film, and they're just talking about, the scenes they're going to shoot. And there was a lot of backstory about, feminism and Elsbeth, grappling with telling this girl you shouldn't shoot this nude scene and all of this and that. So that was discussed at length. That took up a large part of the book. I kind of like that because you're directly kind of calling attention to a trope in slasher movies, which is nudity and, women kind of being front and center about that. And men are behind the scenes of making these slasher movies. So I feel like it confronted that idea in the story by having that whole conversation, and by having Robert be such a pig, it really kind of just brought that idea to the forefront. Kimmy said she agreed with me. It felt like more of like a haunted house stories with creatures more than a slasher. That is what I kind of felt overall, but I do think it had slasher elements that you could kind of, semi consider it a slasher. I will say. So I read, was it 9 books? Or was it 8? I read at least 8 or 9 slashers in June. And I feel like a lot of them were not pure slashers. The majority of them were not pure. Like, I wouldn't say, like, this felt like a pure slasher to me. Even Bonesaw was more like a nod to horror movies in general than slashers. We do have description of slashers and what would take place in a slasher movie. But, like, at the center, there's, like, a creature type of thing as well. Just like with Night Shoot. So to me, can you have creatures in a slasher? Yeah. But it feels like more like weapons and supernatural, like humans, than creatures when it comes to at least slasher movies. So it's like, I'm kind of torn on, what a pure slasher is. But I've had a lot of fascinating discussion about that with my friend Kat and with other people too, because it's fun to dissect. What is really a slasher? What elements need to be there for something to be considered a slasher? Did I finish Brother by Anaya Alborn? What did I think? Yes, loved it. Character driven, emotional, awesome, like the way it was written, beautifully written. Yes, I was not expecting. Do I think that's a complete slasher? No. See, like again, I don't like a lot of the books I write, I just don't think they're 100% slashers, but was it a favorite book of mine of the month of June? Yes. So even though I didn't consider it 100% pure slasher, I still flippin' loved Brother by Anaya Alborn. And if you guys have not read it, I recommend it if you like characters. There is violence, don't get me wrong. It's not like no action at all, but the end stuff unfolds. I don't want to say too much. It's a great story. Kimmy said she liked Brother and was not expecting it to be like it was. Yeah, me neither. Becky said I read Larry and it was pure fun. So I read like 40% of Larry and I still never got through it. Not because I was bored, but I was trying to save it for, if you guys are familiar with Alex, the Bookubus, her YouTube channel is marvelous. She's very knowledgeable about vintage horror and all things horror, period. She's so awesome. She did a very fun event called Scary Sleepover Weekend. And so I had started Larry at the beginning of June. And once she announced this event, this weekend-long event at the end of June, I was like, I'm going to wait till the end of June for her event to finish it because it's a perfect read for like a weekend. It's quick, it's easy, it's popcornish, very light, like something you would watch, but in book form at a sleepover. I did not get to Larry to finish it at least. So I got to some of it, but like that weekend was so crazy for me. I like literally read hardly anything. And I was also reading a book for my private book club that I had to finish like over the weekend. So that took up a lot of my time, which the book was And Then They Were None. So here's another good discussion. And Then They Were None by Agatha Christie is a classic like mystery type of book. However, I do think you could consider it a slasher-ish book. It definitely has slasher tropes and elements to it. But the funny thing is it's such a classic. It's definitely more mystery than horror, but there's horror there. What do you guys think? Have you read And Then They Were None? Did you think it was kind of slasher-ish? I definitely did. And I enjoyed that read quite a bit. I was very surprised how much I liked it. Justin said Night Shoot reminds me of the Linder. I wish I could talk. Linder. It kind of reminded me of the Linda Blair slasher Hell Night, which it too straddles the supernatural line. See, Hell Night I watched about 2 years ago, and I feel like it could have been so much more. If you guys are not familiar, this is a slasher movie. Linda Blair is who played the little girl in The Exorcist. And so she was in this movie Hell Night when she was older. She's wearing this like revealing like corset type of outfit during the movie. They're like her and a whole bunch of people are staying at this like abandoned haunted house, and it's creepy, and things are going down. I just didn't like how whiny her character was. She was supposed to be like, the main protagonist, but she was kind of unlikable in the movie a little bit. She was pretty bitchy. And just I didn't like the way her character was portrayed. I thought she could have been a little bit stronger, more of like a tough as nails type of character, but she wasn't like that to me. But the setting was very much like Hell Night. The setting of Night Shoot reminded me of that. That's a very good comparison in terms of setting, because both were set in like kind of abandoned mansions type of deal. That's a very cool comparison, Justin. I'm glad you brought that up because not everyone has seen Hell Night, but I think it's a good reference. Again, not the best slasher movie, Hell Night, but I think it's worth viewing. There is a good kill or two, but some of the movie kind of drags, but there's some good kills overall. My friend Katie, as I said, at Death by Paperback, she rated this 5 stars, and I'll just quickly read her review here. She said, I finished this book weeks ago, and I still can't stop thinking about it. I still think about it too, especially the end. She says Night Shoot was the perfect blend of haunted house meets psycho killer. David Sodergren took the classic 80s horror feel and gave it a fresh upgrade while still paying homage to its slasher movie roots. The snappy dialogue had me laughing while the gory kills made my stomach churn. I really can't recommend this book enough. I loved every word of it, and David Sodergren is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. Yeah, I really like him, and at this point I'd read anything that he would write and release. I just have to get more of his work under my belt in terms of actually reading it. Again, not that I don't want to, it's just, so many books, so little time. You guys know how it is. You guys are book lovers, so. Spiderweb glass. I thought you might appreciate that. Can you really see it? The flipping light's not very good. Now it's not working. It's kind of glary in here, but yes, you can get the picture. It's spider webs. There's no actual spiders in the cup, though. Like, no spider illustrations or anything. Okay. I did want to say that Amy, over at Amy Noel Reads, she did a really fun slasher-filled vlog. Poor thing, she got COVID. And during the vlog, she has COVID. And oh my god, I felt for her so much. Again, check out her channel, Amy Noel Reads. I felt so bad. Anyway, she read Night Shoot and she loved the beginning and she thought she was going to really enjoy it, but it didn't totally vibe with her. She didn't completely love it, which I understand. I think she said the humor wasn't for her. I do recommend her vlog very much because it was a lot of fun. She did more than just read Night Shoot. She read My Heart's a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. She read, is it called Triple Axe? It's a slasher book about these 3 strippers who, a lot of strippers are getting slashed on the street, and so these 3 take it upon themselves to, or maybe they're adult film stars, I can't remember, but some kind of adult actresses or adult workers, they take matters into their own hands and start, hunting the killer type of deal. So I think she read that as well in her vlog. So I totally recommend it. One more time, Amy Noel Reads, but she did not like Night Shoot. And Kimmy in our chat right now, she did not like it either. Kimmy says, I did wish that we got more backstory for the creatures and how they ended up that way. That would have been interesting. I would have liked, like that. I think there was an interesting thing that was unexplored about the creatures and their relationship with their mother. That was kind of unexplored in terms of the depth of that. But again, if you think about 80s slashers, they're not deep. 80s horror movies in general, they're not super intricate and in depth. And so that's why I think the book is kind of surface level as well. But again, the characters aren't surface level, so there is something there to dig into. There's something there to attach to. So to me, it's not too bad. Too much to criticize, I should say. All right, Amber, over at Secondhand Reader, she rated this a 4-star rating. Thank you again for reading this with me, Amber, and with the club. I really appreciate you. She said, was this the best book ever written? No, but you have to take it for what it is, and it was meant to be. In the afterword, the author talks about his love for slasher movies and says, embrace the trash. And that is the perfect phrase when describing, like, just going along for the ride with this book, in my opinion. So Amber continues on and says, I agree with David. It makes a great tagline. I really did have a lot of fun with this book. It truly read like an 80s slasher movie to a T. If you like slashers and want a quick, fun read, you should pick this up. I'm looking forward to reading more from the author. I will say I did not see the ending coming. I had it playing out a little differently, but it made for a unique take on a played out story. We have all seen this movie 100 times. Very entertaining ride. Very great review, Amber. I like what you said quite a bit. And yeah, I felt like the end, to me, it was different than what I expected as well. That's why I think it elevated it besides just a typical slasher book or story. Or even, like, if it was a movie, if it was made into a movie, I think I would like it even better because of the ending. Most movies don't end that bleakly, though. Books, I feel like, end more in a more bleak way more often than movies. At least that's my opinion. All right, I'm trying to think of if I have anything else I want to say. Anything else you guys want to shout out about the book, your opinions about the book, what David Sodergren book you've got on your radar next to read? Have you, like I said, read any other Sodergren books that you want to recommend to me or to others? Anything of that nature before we wrap it up. And one more reminder, our other book club read was Bonesaw, which, by the way, we have to take a second for both of these books to appreciate the art, because newer horror books don't always have great cover art, but I feel like these two definitely do. This one is just very meta, and it's very film like centric and cinematic in nature, so it perfectly encapsulates what the book is about, in my opinion. And this one is just great art, period. Sorry, it's a little dark in here. It is raining outside, so that's why it's so dark. My window, not a lot of light is coming in, but we've got this great skull in the mansion on the side of the cliff. Just really wonderful artwork here. So I like both covers quite a bit, and I think you can appreciate them because not all books have these great covers these days, in my opinion. All right, guys, so yes, we will be having a Bonesaw live show just like we did today, but that won't take place till like the middle of this month, later on in July. I just have to figure out when, because I am traveling later this week. I'm traveling on vacation, and then I'm going to be traveling at the end of July, going with my boyfriend on a work trip, but I'll be working in like a hotel most of the time. But who knows what my nights are going to be like. So I'll have to see, like, will it be better to live stream during that time or at home? So we will see. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this live chat. I hope you enjoyed Night Shoot, because I definitely did. And again, it just made me realize how many more books by David Sodergren I'd like to get to. I think if I had to choose which one will be next, because I own this one already, I think it'll be Satan's Burnouts Must Die. Especially because I feel like that's a more recent David Sodergren book, and these are more of his early books that I've read. The Forgotten Island, I believe, was his first book he ever published, and then I think Night Shoot was his second, but I'm not completely positive, but it'd be nice to get like a spectrum of like, is it still like kind of the same style? I'm sure it is. So yes, I am very excited to get to that one next, I think, and Maggie's Grave too, just because I've heard a lot of specific stuff about that book in terms of it being really well done. So that's my thoughts. I really loved it, and I am so glad you guys joined me. I hope you all had a good time reading it. And if you didn't like it, I'm hoping that the next pick will be more up your alley, more to your liking. And just in case you guys want a reminder about what is our book club reads for July, I do have a TBR video up on the channel. It's my last video I released, and one of them, the one I'm reading right now, is Boy's Life. It is a chunker, but it's reading to me very fast, but it might read slow to you guys if you don't like character development. I did also get the audiobook from Scribd, which is making it go a little bit faster, but I'm actually reading most of it with my eyes without the audio. I'm just going to use the audio here and there. And the other book we're going to be reading, is it in here? Of course it's not. It's going to be Ghoul by Brian Keene. So if you guys want to join in, my friend Juan over by Plagued by Visions, check out his YouTube channel as well. He, and again, Secondhand Reader, Amber, got to check out her channel as well. Check out everybody's channel that I've mentioned. But Juan's book club is also reading Ghoul by Brian Keene. How funny that we both have the same book club pick. I think that's so cool. So you guys can double dip. If anyone's in Juan's book club on his Patreon and in mine, then you're killing two birds with one stone and accomplishing two things at once if you're in both clubs. So yes, Ghoul by Brian Keene and Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. And I'm really enjoying Boy's Life so far. Definitely a great read, and I can't wait to discuss it with you guys. But again, next up on the agenda for a live show is Bonesaw. Stay tuned to the community tab, and I will announce when I'm going to have that as soon as I can. Thanks again, guys. Happy July 4th early. Hope you all have a fantastic holiday weekend and holiday in general. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for always sticking with me. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please consider leaving a like. But for this time, guys, that's pretty much it for me. Till next time, you guys know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye, guys. Have a great one. Bye.